homosexuality is not an illness. It's a property of humans, a certain quality that has certain biological factors in it before you become gay. Sort of the hormones you receive in the fetus, sort of the genes you receive when getting your genetic imprint. It also has some social influences in the past, like what role models you had as a kid, how you responded to certain impulses. These are imprinted deeply in the brain and cannot be changed later in life, like the fact that I happen to have a good memory and I happen to have a rather light skin. However, there are some individuals that say we can cure this. Some of them are medical centered. They say if we give you certain drugs, then you stop being homosexual. Others are psychiatric centered, most of them actually. They're centered around psychotherapy and often in combination with religious hearings. These people that offer this cure not only promise you can, as a man, live together with a woman, they also promise you can stop feeling these impulses. You can really feel like attracted to women and no more to gay. That is, ladies and gentlemen, as if you promise tomorrow you won't be hungry. Tomorrow we change your whole being, all your impulses. This is really impossible, and what's more, it's really, really harmful. We say, as opening proposition, we ban this service. If there's any people that offer these services, we say, we close their hospital, we close their religious center, we chose their church camp. We say they're wrong, they should be banned from having this practice. Already now, quite interesting. Yes?
Sir, what is the harm for the society for having those schemes?
Okay, brilliant. I was just about to introduce my points. First, a harm to specific individuals. Why we believe this makes these people largely unhappy. And you will extend a bit on it by talking about rationality furthermore, but I'll do specific harms to start with. Then I go to the signal we give as a government in fourfolds, and we say basically this signal is we shouldn't treat everyone equal. We shouldn't say equality always stands for, etc. And indeed then I'll show a large harm for society because we treat gays unequal and because we make many gays very unhappy. Not only these gays, also other gays. Let's start with the harm for the specific individual involved. We are saying two things to them. The first is, you are now a less worthy individual. Within our scheme of minds, homosexuality, for some reason, is lesser than heterosexuality. Otherwise, it didn't have to be cured, if we were perfectly fine. We say, you are this less worthy individual. But not only are you this horrible gay person, it's also not something you can change yourself. It's something that you chose to be. It's not something God or your genes or whatever wanted it to be. It's something you chose yourself. You yourself choose to have an inappropriate lifestyle. We think that's rather problematic. When I've shown you in the first point that it is not an illness, but not an illness and not a lifestyle choice, but really something that is inherent to you. If we tell you you are less worthy because of this creed that can be cured, then that is very immoral. Also, people will be forced to seek this cure, because if they don't, then it's also their really own choice to stay in this sin. Second point. These people give the impression of a cure, and during this cure they will constantly tell it's bad what you're doing, it's bad those impulses that you have, it's rather devilish. They constantly tell you you can't stop them and you should stop them. And if you don't stop these impulses, obviously you're not trying hard enough. Obviously you're still choosing to live with the devil, etc. Even if these people start living with women, which we think in some cases might be perfectly fine. If they start still living with women, but they still have these impulses for men, they still have the impression, I'm doing something wrong, and I'm doing something actively wrong, I could stop it, but hey, I'm not that good, my therapy told me to stop, I didn't do it, I'm something inherently bad. We say these people develop a strong self-hatred. And we see that indeed many people that appear to be cured, start a family now, are extremely unhappy. Last year in the United States, a couple of books of these people came out. They described how they constantly lived in hell, living with a woman who told them, hey, you have to be attracted to me, but they just weren't. They just were constantly, still had this impulse for men, and these people make them think that they should live in sin with them. Others, they don't even come to the point where they can live with these women. You have all seen probably this South Park episode where Butters is sent to this gay camp for being bi-curious. And it's rather realistic, although I generally don't like giving South Park as an argument. But it's rather realistic in its sense that these people are constantly told to hate themselves. And indeed, we see that many of them become suicidal. They start challenging the very beings of themselves. They're constantly telling, you're wrong, you should do something else. They constantly start developing self-hatred. And many indeed don't survive this. No. Next point. Signals as a government. The general signal we give as a government is equality is not all that we stand for. We shouldn't treat all people heterosexual or homosexual differently, and we don't respect all people for what they are. It comes down in a signal to 4 groups. 1, the gay people involved themselves. 2, their societies, Christian, Jewish, whatever. 3, society at large, and 4, potential future gays who are thinking about coming out of the closet but will be harmed. First people, gay people themselves. We as a government are giving them that signal. It's perfectly fine for just these institutions to tell you this self-hater. We as a government tell you, although we tell you it's probably possible to cure this. It's probably that they have a certain reason. It's probably quite reasonable what these people do. We say, no, they're not reasonable. These gay people should be helped by government, should be told by government, you are watching on what you're doing. And if people are fighting your lifestyle, these people are bad. We say the government should protect these gay people. Second point, the Christian, Jewish, Islamic, humanistic, I don't know, communities that think it's a sin to be homosexual in their surroundings, and that also think it's pretty cool to treat it. We as a government give them a sign of acceptation. We don't say only, you have freedom of religion to choose whatever you like to do. We say it extends over other rights. It extends to the right that you may torture certain individuals. It extends to the right that you're not bounded by state law to treat everyone equal and to give everyone equal opportunity and equal choices for themselves. Thirdly, society at large. We give the signal, yes, we can discriminate upon gays. First of all, because it might be a lifestyle choice, and secondly of all, because it's perfectly normal. These people can discriminate, so you can discriminate. We see, as a government, we should send a very clear signal. Discrimination, horrible, never do it. Lastly, potential future gay. We're thinking about going out of the closet, and what we think is a good thing, and they should do. By this, in many ways, because the government basically gives the signal, being gay is not cool, it should be able to cure it. They are threatened from coming out of the closet. They're problematic with their gay identity, which should be probably just totally fine. We think it's bad. So, because gayness is not an illness, because it cannot be cured, because all people that claim to be cured are basically bad people, it has harms to the individual and many to society, I urge you to propose the motion. Thanks.
I'd like to thank the Prime Minister for his remarks. I'll call upon the Leader of the Opposition to open up this debate for side opposite. Here.
Ladies and gentlemen, what have we heard from the side of the proposition that they want to ban any cure of homosexuality? Ladies and gentlemen, this proposition has started you by claiming to tell you where homosexuality comes from, ladies and gentlemen. And he mentioned, if I may remind you, he mentioned everything. He mentioned from genetics to education to all different kinds of things. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't think the government or anybody else knows where homosexuality comes from. That actually will be my first point, but first I will tell you something about the other things what the proposition told you. So, what they told you is that because some people tell the homosexuals that they offer them a cure and that they might change possibly, then that implicates that homosexuality in itself is bad, ladies and gentlemen. However, we think that these people just offer a change in lifestyle. So far, you are homosexual, now you do not want to be a homosexual anymore, and there are some people who offer you a possibility to maybe become not a homosexual anymore. So this is perfectly your own choice to do that, and it's that change, and it's nothing to do with whether homosexuality is bad or not, or whether it's not bad. If there are people who offer heterosexuals a way to become homosexual, then ladies and gentlemen, we are fine with that as well. Because some people offer a cure for homosexuality, ladies and gentlemen, it's bad. Big statement from the side of the government. But ladies and gentlemen, there are lots of groups out there who tell you lots of different issues that your behavior, your lifestyle is actually bad. Just think of smokers, ladies and gentlemen. There's a huge number of groups that tell smokers that their lifestyle is bad and that they should change their lifestyle, and therefore they are offering cures for smokers, ladies and gentlemen. However, ladies and gentlemen, we think this is exactly the same thing. There might be as well groups who tell homosexuals that their lifestyle is bad. We are perfectly fine with that, as long as the state does not discriminate the homosexuals, as long as they are just individual groups in society who say that we think homosexuality is bad, and that we think we can offer you a cure, ladies and gentlemen. And if you think there's a difference between smokers and homosexuality because smoking is causing you damage, then think, for example, you could also argue that homosexuality is causing you damage because you cannot father your own kids with your same-sex partner, ladies and gentlemen. So this is exactly a very valid analogy. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's come to my substantive points. No, thank you. Deal with you and now. Where does homosexuality come from? It could be many different things. It could be genetics. It could be hormones in the womb during pregnancy. It could be the education on a small child, the experience a small child makes, ladies and gentlemen. The point is, we don't know where homosexuality is coming from. Sure. There is no scientific explanation for homosexuality. And because we don't know where homosexuality is coming from, because we don't know the reason where it is coming from, ladies and gentlemen, we don't know that once we find out where it is coming from, we might not possibly have a cure for homosexuality. We might not possibly have something to change homosexuality. So once we have the reason, maybe we can say that there is no cure for homosexuality. But as long as we don't know how homosexuality comes about, we cannot rule out that there actually is a cure, ladies and gentlemen, that there is a way to change your sexual orientation, and ladies and gentlemen, as long as we don't know, we may not ban people from trying to do so, to actually change their lifestyles. So, only if you can show us that, and you can, that you know where homosexuality is really coming from, and that therefore scientifically it's not possible to change it, then you can ban cures on the basis that there's pseudo-cures. But as long as you don't know, as long as no one knows, we may offer the people, and we must allow the people to offer them a chance to actually cure themselves. Because what we're actually doing here is we are offering the people a way to change who they are, ladies and gentlemen. And we on the side of the opposition think that you should be allowed as an individual to be all you can be and to choose actually your lifestyle. What does that mean, for example, in practice? And actually, I'm taking you.
It's perfectly fine to choose your lifestyle. However, it is not perfectly fine to tell people to have a cure that we know has certain factors that cannot be cured. And even if it could, if you claim we don't know, why do you think we can cure it?
I'm not saying I know how to cure it. There might be some people who know how to cure it. It must be allowed to try to cure it, as long as it's not proven that you cannot cure it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the stance of the opposition. And we think it must be allowed that you may choose your lifestyle, ladies and gentlemen. And we allow other people to change their lifestyle to be what they want to be in all instances of life, ladies and gentlemen. If you have low self-esteem, if you have problems to for example, a broad woman, then you can go to a psychologist and change who you are. You can change your psychology. You can change what makes you as a person. For example, if you have been a person with low self-esteem, after 5 years of treatment, you might come out as a person with high self-esteem. Furthermore, ladies and gentlemen, and this is maybe more closely on the topic, we allow people to undergo sex changes. Ladies and gentlemen, what can be more who you are, and where can we more allow people to manifest their own destiny, their own wishes, when we allow them to change their own sex, ladies and gentlemen. This is not just a way of how I behave and how I do. This changes of who I am as a person, ladies and gentlemen. And we think each individual should have the right to change who they are. They should actually be able to be all they can be, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what this opposition is standing for. Ladies and gentlemen, we think the state has absolutely no role in telling individuals to limit their possibilities, to change who they are, to allow them to take into their hands their own life, ladies and gentlemen. And Vladi will tell you on the role of the state and the psychology of the individual. So to sum up my debate, I have told you that clearly, by offering a cure, you're not necessarily telling homosexuals that they are bad, ladies and gentlemen. That even if there are some groups tell them that they are bad, ladies and gentlemen, that's perfectly fine if they are not and actually disadvantaged by the state, ladies and gentlemen. Furthermore, I've told you in my two substances point that we as of now do not know where homosexuality comes from, ladies and gentlemen, and as long as we don't know, there might be a cure, and therefore we should not ban cures. And finally, we have told you, this is the very important point here, that you as an individual have to change, you have the right to be who you want to be, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why we do not go with this proposition.
So let's thank the Leader of the Opposition for his remarks, and I'll call upon the Deputy Prime Minister to continue this debate.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to explain again exactly what is promised to be cured. It's the impulses, not the lifestyle. Second, I want to explain why governments can intervene and why we can restrict unreasonable beliefs. And then I'll explain why people in this case are not rational because of their communities and that they derive their beliefs not from science and facts but from their communities. And finally, why this is so bad for family, why it destroys them. 2 points of rebuttal. The point about smoking is objectively bad and smoking can objectively be cured because there are studies that show that, and it's an addiction, and addiction can be cured. Second, they said homosexuality can be cured. That was their claim. And we said, well, all the scientific evidence points that it can be cured. So in a deep philosophical way, we cannot prove that homosexuality is not an illness. We cannot prove that, as we cannot prove that we exist here. However, if we go by the facts, all scientists who are biologists agree that homosexuality, the impulses, cannot be cured. Okay, what is to be cured? Because these people don't say, I can promise you that you can live with a woman. Because yes, homosexuals can live with a woman, they will be deeply unhappy, but they can live with a woman, they can try to have sex with her, they can have children with that woman. That's all fine. But what these people promise is that their impulses will change. That when they see a man, they don't feel the sexual desire. If they see a man, they don't feel a need, or they don't feel attracted. That all their desires to live with a man will change. And those impulses cannot be cured. No, please sit down. Okay, government intervention. When is it warranted? Well, then we should think, why do we give people freedom? Well, first because we think that people in general have better information over their preferences. I know better whether I like black women, or white women, or Chinese men than the government. So the government shouldn't force me to something because I have that information better. And that's why if you give them freedom, they will satisfy their preferences best. But when can we intervene? When people don't have the best informed preferences about themselves. And why is this the case? If the state knows the informed preferences of the individual better than the individual, then it can intervene. And why can we be sure that the state has this information better? Well, because homosexuality cannot be cured. Yeah? So that means, why do people go to treatment? Because of the hope, the desire to get cured. And if we know that that desire is unwarranted, then the reason they go to the cure is irrational. And then by intervening, we can help them. No, please sit down. So then they say, well, perhaps it is true. You cannot know it. Okay, which unreasonable beliefs should we tolerate? We think that we should look at two things. How unreasonable is the belief and how harmful is the belief? And here, it's very unreasonable. We don't know it 100% sure, but the science tells you that your sexual desires are for a large part determined in your brain. And your brain structures are not very easily changed once they're already formed. So perhaps by genetic manipulation, when you're a fetus, you could change it. But once your brain is formed, you cannot change that by the means we have now. And also, all the studies have shown that it is that they didn't have success. So then there are some. And then, should we tolerate this? Because people may think we tolerate many unreasonable desires. For instance, I may buy some candy, and that candy says you will turn blue. You know, we won't intervene. But why we intervene here is because the harms are very big. If I have a sect and I tell you, commit suicide now, and then we will all be happy, then we will stop that. I cannot prove that it's untrue, but we think it's unreasonable and it poses great harms. And Anir has said that there are great harms. So those two criteria are met. It is very unreasonable, we cannot prove it, and the harms are very bad. So then we should outlaw it as we already do.
Sir?
Okay, no. Yes?
Sir, church makes you believe that if you with a couple of Hail Marys you can cure your spirit. How unreasonable is that?
Okay. Because there are no great harms, as I explained, there are not great harms from doing that to a church. If the church would say, if you kill someone else, then you will have mystical blessings, they would say, no, that is wrong because there are harms. But if there are no great harms, there's no reason to intervene there. So that is what you have to prove. Okay. Why can we assume that people will be irrational? We don't think that people are atoms with rationality and they all have correct beliefs. Rather, they have desires, and they adapt their beliefs to the desires. I think most people in this room who are debaters think that the percentage that they will win is larger than 50%. So we are irrational. Why? Because we adapt our beliefs to our desires. And many homosexuals, for instance, who think it's a sin, really want to change, and that's why they adapt. Second, people do not go through all the data, read all the science, but rather get their beliefs from the wider community they're at. Okay, and then we come to these communities. Because suppose you are born in a very liberal family, and you go to high school, you go to college, you do a PhD in biology, then probably you think homosexuality cannot be cured. But on the other hand, if you're born in a very strict, for instance, Christian family, and everybody tells you there's a natural order by God, and being heterosexual, that's a natural order, then of course you can cure it because it's the natural order. And then, if you don't have, for instance, your college degree or a master's degree in biology, it's very hard to read through all the scientific literature. And that means that these people can be very easily be misled. And that is also, for instance, why we think that we have such things as doctors and regulation. Because people don't have the scientific experience to evaluate medical facts and medical research. And the same is here. The science is very clear, but it's very hard to understand it. So these people derive their beliefs from their communities. Finally, it destroys family. It's bad for the people themselves, but there are also third-party harms. Suppose I think I'm homosexual. I go to a thing and I think I'm cured. Then I marry someone, I get children, and surprise, I'm not cured, and I divorce. This is very bad. Why? For the woman, she will feel that she has failed, because she thinks, I'm so bad a woman that my husband is homosexual. The children will be very bad because they don't have their father, and in their communities it's a pretty bad thing if your father is homosexual, so they will have some blame from their community. Now, and we will not always, we sometimes allow stupid choices in marriages, but here we know pretty sure that is not going to work out. And hence we should limit this third-party harm to the children and the women as well. So, what have I said? I've explained that what is to be cured is not that you could live with a woman, but that your homosexual impulses will go away. And that is not possible, and that we cannot prove it for sure, but the most reasonable fact we have is that you cannot cure it, and that this belief is unreasonable, and that it carries great harms, and that is why government can intervene to maximize the informed preferences of these individuals. For these reasons, I beg to depose.
Let's thank the Deputy Prime Minister for his remarks. I'll call upon the Deputy Leader of the Opposition to continue this debate. Here.
Dear Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, today we are talking about the crucial question, is it correct to ban certain opinions, ladies and gentlemen? And that homosexuality is a disease as an opinion, because as my partner pointed out, we have no evidence how it comes from homosexuality, and we do not know anything about how it has changed. For instance, a person who was heterosexual and becomes homosexual, ladies and gentlemen. So the thesis that homosexuality can be cured is by now, by the status of science, an opinion, ladies and gentlemen. And this side of the House wants to ban an opinion. But we believe on the side of the opposition that we have to grant to the society, in a free state, we have to grant the largest freedom possible. And we have to grant the scientific groups, and we have to grant religious groups, and we have to grant individuals the right to defend their own opinion that homosexuality is a disease, ladies and gentlemen. But before I want to go into this in substantive remarks, I want to go on some remarks. First, we have heard that it is the task of us of the opposition to prove that their ban has no harms, ladies and gentlemen. So they tried to shift the burden of proof, and they tried to claim that we have to prove their ban has no harms to society. But this challenge I will do, ladies and gentlemen, and I will tell you how, by the restriction of freedom of opinion, This ban is harming our freedoms, the freedoms of religious and the freedoms of community groups.
Sure.
We also have heard, thank you very much, that believes that families will be destroyed if a father that is homosexual after 15 years find out that the family was not the right thing to do, ladies and gentlemen. But the problem is that this father, who is homosexual but was pressured to go into marriage, that this father was at the beginning undecided. He was not quite sure if he was homosexual or not, ladies and gentlemen. And we on this side of the house want to give this father the possibility to find it out much earlier by giving him the chance to go into psychiatrics and to find out if he's homosexual or not. Ladies and gentlemen, but let me talk about the role of the state. As I've just said, it is very important in a free state to grant the greatest freedom possible. And I want to discuss the role of the state on two levels. On the level of science and on the level of religious groups. Ladies and gentlemen, talking about science. We just said that there is no evidence that homosexuality is a disease, and there is no evidence that homosexuality is not a disease. So it is just an opinion. And ladies and gentlemen, how in science progress is made? Progress in science is made by differing opinions that are creating a discourse, ladies and gentlemen. So, by banning this discourse that is done by the government, we are banning the discussion if homosexuality is really a disease or if it is not, ladies and gentlemen. We are stopping the discussion, and by that, we are stopping the scientific progress, ladies and gentlemen, because science is about discussing different themes and topics, and science is about discussing different opinions, and this side of the house bans one of these opinions and stops the scientific progress of diversity and the scientific progress of opinion exchange. But I will take you.
Okay, you claim we prosecute a scientific opinion. On a philosophical level, you are true, because nothing is sure. Compared to, I think there are three moons. It's against all evidence, but it might still be true. Is this a wrong equivalent? Yes, because having three moons does not have harm.
Ladies and gentlemen, this side of the house does not contradict us that there is no evidence. This side of the house, by their statement, does not contradict us on the philosophical level. We are true. We say the right thing. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, this side of the house does not see the evidence if it is a disease or not. So this side of the house should join us, actually, and should say that we are promoting the scientific progress. Ladies and gentlemen, what about the second level, the religious groups? We heard from the Prime Minister that we will close down the religious groups if they will say that homosexuality is a disease. But since when in a free state are we closing religious beliefs are we closing religious groups and churches because of their beliefs? If I believe in my religion, in my Christian religion, for instance, that homosexuality is wrong, this is my personal belief, ladies and gentlemen. And since there is no evidence that this belief is wrong, I should have the right to explain this, and to say that homosexuality is a disease. This is just part of the freedom of speech and part of freedom of the religion that this side of the house wants to restrict. The second point, the psychology of the individual. Your example of a man, of a husband who finds out that he's homosexual and the family gets destroyed. This we would not have if we do not ban such places where people can actually discuss about homosexuality. Because what is the problem? Still, homosexuality is really a closed issue, and many people fear the mockery by the social groups. But ladies and gentlemen, if we give these homosexuals the possibility to go into such communities, to discuss their issues, to discuss what homosexuality really is, they can in an easier way find out if they are really homosexual. Because the psychology of the individual is to be undecided. And there are more and more cases where people later find out that they're homosexual, or later find out they're heterosexual. And what Marcus has pointed out is that we are giving those people another opportunity to find out if they are homosexual or not. And giving people another opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, is what will benefit our society, because if I can talk freely with a psychologist about my issues, and if I'm undecided, I will, in these talks, gain more self-confidence, and this will bring me to self-actualization, ladies and gentlemen. I will realize who I really am. I will really actually be finding out what I really love or not. And ladies and gentlemen, the last point. Homosexuality in authoritarian countries. Unfortunately, we do not all live in free states, ladies and gentlemen. And this side of the house, the government, didn't say us where they want to introduce such a ban. But imagine an authoritarian country, Saudi Arabia or others, ladies and gentlemen. There, if there is an evidence or there is a hint that you might be homosexual, ladies and gentlemen, you are treated like a criminal. And if you're treated like a criminal, you are put into jail. And ladies and gentlemen, what is better? To go to jail for 5 or 10 years because there is a hint that you're homosexual? Or to have this cure, so-called cure in hospitals, ladies and gentlemen, and just spend there 2 or 3 or 4 months? Ladies and gentlemen, we say that especially in authoritarian regimes, it is better to get cured and just to say personally, well, I'm not homosexual anymore, than to be put into jail. Ladies and gentlemen, summing up, because it is good to have different opinions for the scientific progress and for freedom of religion, and because it is good, ladies and gentlemen, that we are undecided and we can talk to other people about matters about our orientation. It is good to give people more opportunities, and this is why I'm proud to stand in opposition.
So to thank the Deputy Leader for his remarks, I call upon the Member of Government to open up the second half of this debate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I will interweave my rebuttal into my speech, as is common nowadays, I guess. But I will flag it along the way. First of all, I need to point out an inconsistency on the side of opposition. Because they say, look, this is going to be a free choice. Some people just want to get rid of their homosexuality, and we don't actually know whether this is an illness or not. And in the meantime, let's just try anything. If this were true, right, if it could just be an illness, if that's a legitimate possibility, then also you would be allowing minors to be treated by this. Why? Because in the current status quo, parents are allowed to let their children be cured of illnesses. Therefore, they should also be allowed to have them forced to not be gay later on, right? And if it's not sure and so forth, how can we condemn them? So these are not consenting adults, therefore. These religious communities will also terrorize their own toddlers and so forth just because they like dolls, and they will be, well, harmed, I guess, psychologically by having them feel guilt from a very early age onwards, which will screw up their development quite a bit, I say. So it's inconsistent. This plan must also allow parents to send their kids to camps, minors, so it's not just consenting adults. But I will take on the case of consenting adults anyway, later on. So, what I will talk to you about. First of all, why we actually think that these sorts of treatments are a product of coercion. Then we'll talk to you why this opt-out is never a solution to discrimination, to forms of intolerance. And I'll also tell you why this will postpone a needed reform in these sort of communities and countries. But first, let me delve into the science. Because they said there's no scientific evidence. Well, first of all, there's an older brother effect, in the sense that the more male siblings you have, that are older than you, the higher the chance of you being gay, which really points towards a certain memory effect in the mother's body. So, biological, yes. Then we have twin studies, in which one twin can be gay, the other not. Maybe it's not totally genetic, but we do know that it happens in the womb. Then we have gay rats. If you inject rats just after they're born with certain hormones, you can make them act, well, gay for the rest of their lives. They will not change. And they will not change by having some sort of exorcism ceremony around them. And I hope that people will not try, and suppressing that opinion, well, never mind. Also, in every vertebrate species, gay couples or gay individuals have been spotted. Therefore, we must really know that this is part of a natural cause. These people are just as much have a certain skin color because of the birth lottery as they have their gender preference when it comes to sexuality and love. So therefore, scientific consensus, there's not even scientific consensus whether the Earth is a sphere. There are still flat earthers around. I mean, the fact that some nut jobs in some communities still want to use their sort of form of science to suppress another group doesn't mean that we simply have to allow them to do so, because I'm sure the Ku Klux Klan has some really interesting racial science ideas to back their claims up. That doesn't mean that intolerance is okay. So, let's move on. First of all, coercion. But we have a point of closing opposition.
Sir, this is not a debate about homosexuality in essence. This is a debate about what kind of programs we allow to run in our society.
Right.
Show us the part of this one.
So, well, we actually talked to you about making people feel guilty about things that cannot be changed. And if you want them to castrate themselves, you think that's the way forward, then you might want to propose that in your speech. Because that might actually work, but I'm not really sure that's the way to go. That we make people feel so bad about themselves that they harm themselves, either psychologically or physically. Now, let's go into the coercion part. Because there's a very interesting parallel to be drawn with sex change operations. They already came up in the debate before. We actually see in very tolerant societies where it's okay that we accept that you can be born as intersex or as an opposite sex than your outside appearance, then it's okay to have an operation. Which people actually choose to have those operations in a free society when they have no pressures applied to them? Well, some people do, but they do so from internal motivation. They don't do so because it's better for their social standing. No, it's actually quite difficult, it's quite painful, but still, despite the fact that society will tolerate it, they still choose to do so. If we look at societies that are equally tolerant towards gays, will we see, or communities that are equally tolerant towards gays, will we see anyone choose this form of therapy? No. It's not just something, because it's a personal preference that's internally motivated. The people that will still choose these treatments must be in communities or societies that force them. Because in a free society, we don't see any homosexuals just wanting to change their preference for the sake of it. It doesn't happen that way. So we must know that there be some external motivation working on these people to change their identity. And we think that's wrong. First of all, because it harms them, because it makes them feel guilty, because it leads to higher suicide rates, but also because it's not the solution to let these people opt out. If you say that the solution to discrimination is letting the people who are discriminated against change themselves in very harmful ways, or sit down please, I'm waving you down like 5 times or something. Like, by changing the minority, that would be a very weird workaround. It doesn't really change the society. If people are discriminated against because they have a certain skin color, should they just bleach their skin? Is that the solution then? Doesn't that just postpone the acceptance of a multi-ethnic society even further along the way? Also, if there's sexism in the society and you're able to have a sex change operation, therefore sex change is not a problem anymore, is that the case that you're putting forward? Of course not. Because we say society should grow to tolerate birth differences. And we think that by allowing this, we will not send a signal, we will not use our resources to change this. Because it postpones reforms. Because there are a few possible options. Either you're in a suppressive community that forces you to have this therapy. Because in any other community you would not have any incentive to take this therapy. And if there is such an incentive, I want the opposition to prove that, you will choose not to use this therapy. In that case, you will make another sinful choice and you will be, well, looked down upon even more. Maybe you will choose to have this therapy and it will not work because you will still like gays or you will still like people of the same preference. That will mean that you are a badly formed individual because you are beyond change. You are so sinful that you cannot be changed. And the last possibility is that indeed you learn to pretend to be straight, which means that at some point along the line you might make mistakes anyway, still be hanged in Saudi Arabia, but you will not be a very happy person if you are suppressing such a fundamental aspect of yourself, such an urge that is so primal as such as sexuality. So we say, by allowing racism, or by allowing discrimination, by asking the minority that is suppressed to change themselves, instead of letting them be visible parts of the community, instead of making these communities accept that some people are born this way and they will just have to deal with it, we are making life harder for gays that will be born, for next generations of Christians, for next generation of Islam, of Muslims that happen to be born gay. I beg you to propose actually.
Let's thank the member of government for his remarks. I'll call upon the member of the opposition to continue this debate.
Right, let's bring it home. Mr. Speaker, members of the House, this debate is about what do we ban in our society and what do we allow government to ban in our society. What kind of services do we allow and what kind of services do we want to have? We want to talk about 3 things in this debate. We want to talk about origin of those services. We want to talk about what do we ban in our society, giving the examples of church and other offensive services as they claim. And thirdly, we want to talk about how we progress. But first things first, rebuttal. Bench of the government today, bench of assumptions today. They're saying societies do not treat those people equal. Shame to those governments who don't treat them equal. We believe the all people, no matter which their sexual identification is, and should be treated equal in our societies. This is what we stand for. Secondly, this is on rational choice. We believe those people are perfectly rational. Those people want to go there. They go there by their free will. They're fully informed about what the programs does, and they're fully informed what are the consequences of it may be. We believe that is something that we call the rational choice. They are not forced to go there. No one is. That is not obligatory, and therefore they go by their free will. No. Thirdly, was the minors. Ladies and gentlemen, we determine what our sexual identification is when we come to adultery age. Therefore, minors have no place in this debate whatsoever, because their sex is determined by through their growing up, through the teenage age, and we believe that they are no have place in this debate. Do those people feel guilty? This is my favorite, and it goes directly against the origin of these services, our first argument. Mr. Speaker, for every service that has been built in our society, there was a demand. So it doesn't go, we provide the service, and then we ask people, do you want to join in? No, we go into a market, we check out what the people want, we provide them that service, because there is no service in this world that exists which does not have a demand for it. No. For instance, for all kinds of treatments for the people who wants them to go to psychiatrists for whatever reason, to heal themselves for any imaginary illness that they have or whatsoever, we allow them choice. We allow them to go there. They have not proved to us why we should forbid the choice for those people who wants to go to these services. There is nothing that says to us that we should forbid our citizens, for whatever sexuality they are, to go to the service and if they feel better for themselves. Either way they go there, if they're uncertain of their sexuality, or they are certain but they feel about it, let them go there, let them evolve their thoughts, let them spread their thoughts with the people who are thinking same or different, and let them be certain about it, and let them feel good. No. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, what do we ban in our society? We ban only services that harms to our society. There is not one single proof on their side that shows that this is harming to the people, either who are in those groups or either people who are not. Now, for instance, church that came into POI of my partner. Why do we allow church then? Church is lying to the people. It's saying it is only one savior in every religion. It makes a gap between the people of different religions. Why don't we ban them? Secondly, Catholic Church, favorite ours, they're saying whatever you do, whatever sin that you made, you can buy your absolution. Why don't we ban that, Mr. Speaker? Why do we allow people not to feel any kind of responsibility, because whatever they do, if they're rich enough, they can buy an absolution and deal with that? Like,
so if you don't believe that there's coercion at play, why then is there no demand for these services in tolerant communities and countries?
That's deliberate untrue. Now, services, and especially services like this, come from mostly evolved societies. We're going to deal with that in our third argument. But the mostly evolved societies are the ones who are providing us new services. These kind of services came from evolved societies, from the Western liberal democracies, which we believe that allow to our people and to our citizens the choice and the freedoms of highest rank. Now, church. Secondly, what we do have to say on this as well. There are other services in our societies that we do not ban. For instance, there are people who are saying whatever, for instance, eating animals is illness and eating animals is bad. And that makes division among two kinds of people. Those who eat animals, those who don't. We do not say that those kind of services should be banned. They should be exposed so we can debate whether they are good or not. And this is how we progress. Mr. Speaker, the progress does not come from the government saying this is bad or this is good. We do not allow that. We want to say that civil society is what we are based on and what we should progress in. If you ban any kind of services or any kind of movement in our society, you put them in the shadow. They become something mystical, something forbidden for whatever reason. We say that's very bad. We say that's very dangerous. No. We say that we should
If you think that they are bad, then expose them. Let the civil society and their thoughts evolve around the thought whether or not these kind of services are good. If you want to deal with those kind of services, then you need to destroy the man, not the service in the essence, because the man is where the demand for it is where from the service comes from in the first place. No, thank you. Mr. Speaker, we believe that harmfuls to society are the oppression regimes who are not allowing freedom of thoughts and who are not allowing choice for our citizens. If they want to choose to go to those services, if they choose to be there, we have no problems with that. Do that affect other gay people? No. When they go to the gay parade, when they go out in the park, when they kiss each other on the party, they don't care what other people think because they are certain in their sexuality, and we believe that's the way it should be. Do we treat equal a heterosexual couple and homosexual couple? Yes, and we should do, because all our citizens should and are equal in our societies. And thirdly, Mr. Speaker, this is a banning of difference. This is the banning of choice for the people who want to go there. We do not allow and we do not accept it. We believe that choice must be granted to our citizens for whatever reasons. So, alles klar, we back to us.
Well, I thank the member opposite for his remarks, and I'll call upon the government whip to conclude the case for the proposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What I'm going to do today is talk to you about some assumptions that were made by the other side of the House. Assumptions which are unfounded. Secondly, I'm going to speak to you about the harms that we have clearly established of these kind of services existing in our society. But first, let me engage into some rebuttal, because the former speaker clearly doesn't know about the nature of homosexuality. He assumes that, well, you only know whether you are homosexual or not once you have reached the age of 18. Therefore, it will not be possible that parents send their underage children to these kind of cure doctors, whatever you might call them. We think that's false. A lot of people know on the age of 15, 16 that they feel a certain urge toward men. And this will lead to parents actually sending their little children to be cured by other people. So in that case, consent is not there, and the other side of the House should say that if these people recognize this homosexuality as a cure, why they are not allowed to send their underage children? There seems to be a little bit of a discrepancy between if they are allowed to say it's a disease, then they must also be allowed to send their underage children. And then there is no consent, and explain to us why that is allowed. Sit down. Secondly, the speaker said, okay, there is a demand. And if there's a demand, then the service is there, and that's good. Well, he is not thinking about the reason why this demand exists. Like the former speaker pointed out, like my partner pointed out, a lot of people, this demand exists because of pressure applied in certain non-tolerant communities on these people, saying to them, you can't be cured, go search for a doctor which might cure you from this evil disease which leads to sin. So we say, when that is the motivation for a demand existing, there is a clear mandate for the government to intervene, and I'm going to expand on that on the harms part. Sit down. Okay, let's look to the assumptions that they have made. The first assumption is, well, nobody knows what homosexuality exactly is. Therefore, everybody should be allowed to try to treat that and to label that like they want to. And it's therefore also allowed for people to say that it's a disease, and to thereby stigmatize certain people of their community. Well, Mr. Speaker, we know something about homosexuality, and I'm not going to explain, I'm not going to repeat Rob's biological analysis / degree, but I'm going to, however, tell you what is clearly established, namely that it's an intrinsic feature of yourself, homosexuality, that it's reasonable to assume that it's in no way different of being heterosexual. And the fact that we don't know and can't establish where you derive your sexuality from, what the exact reason is, does not mean that people in the meantime are allowed to stigmatize people, to use products of extortion, to say to them, you are ill, go try to find yourself, because there are clear harms. Yes?
It is nice that your partner knows what homosexuality is, but what if I don't? If I wish to discuss this issue with another person, with your model, I'm not allowed to go there to talk about it.
No, it's not about the talking. If you have problems with your sexuality, talk with anyone you want. I'm available after this debate. The problem is the fact that you extort people and that you tell people that their sexuality can be cured and that it's a choice and that they are sinners because they choose to. We say that's undermining, and that leads to a lot of problems. And that also undercuts the point that they make about self-actualization. It's reasonable to assume, like we have established, that external motivations motivate you to go and get cured of your sexuality. So it has nothing to do with self-actualization, but it has to do with certain non-tolerant communities trying to tell you to act in a certain way. And we see that in tolerant communities, for example, in the debating society, homosexual people don't tend to change their sexuality. There must be a correlation between how people think of you if you are a homosexual in certain communities and how they think in other communities. So we think that's clearly out of the way. No, sit down. Okay, what is happening? We say, when you can apply these forms of pressure, what you do is basically say to people, you should try. And when they try, if it succeeds, quote unquote succeeds, then they are probably going to get married, like first part pointed out, and they are going to live in an unhappy marriage. Most marriages undergone by homosexuals usually lead to unhappy families, and at the end to divorces and to unhappy individuals. So we see a clear harm. The people who are going to pretend that they are cured, the people who are going to say that, they will make a precedent for the other cases. If you are not cured, then they say, look to that other person, he is cured. Why aren't you cured? So people will feel guilty about themselves because some people pretend that they are cured, and thereby some people think that they are cured. And a lot of homosexuals will think in these communities, why am I not cured? Maybe I'm not trying hard enough. But the problem, and this leads to personal problems like depression, but in more extreme cases, higher suicidal rates among gays in these communities. And we say that that only is a clear reason for the government to intervene. Moreover, there is a bigger problem, namely what Rob pointed out, is that there is a reform needed in how strong religious communities interact with these people. These people need to be reformed in how they view these people and in how they see these people. And if you say, okay, we are going to give you the illusion of it being cured potentially, then you are postponing the confrontation which needs to happen. Namely, that these people should recognize that it's reasonable to say, well, you're a woman and you're being discriminated, but there are options, namely changing your sex. Do that. We don't think that that's a reasonable thing to do. And we think that in a modern society, you should not let these illusions continue to exist. You should tell it like it is, and you should say to these people that they should not extort other people into doing things which will not be reasonable for them to do. I beg you to propose.
Let's thank Government Whip for his remarks. I call upon the opposition's whip to conclude this debate. Here.
Ladies and gentlemen of this House, this debate is basically about three major populations in our society. We simply say that there are people who believe in God, there are people who do not believe in God, and there are people who doubt in the existence of God. And that this is the group, this is completely applicable to this debate, that there is a population of people who are not so certain about their sexuality, who are maybe not still identified their sexual behavior to the complete level. But let's see what we have brought you in this debate. We simply clashed in this debate around three things. Firstly, what kind of movements, what kind of programs do we forbid in our society to exist? Secondly, I want to talk about what are the similar programs like this one that already exist in our society, who nobody mentions from this side of the bench, and who are simply conducting almost similar things, but nobody here sees the harms of. Thirdly, I want to talk about, we clashed about consequences. How will this affect actually the homosexual population in general? But before that, let's see some parts of the rebuttal. Now, firstly, when they were constantly going back to this assumption that children will go here. Ladies and gentlemen, simply it was never stated from the side of the government that this program will be for children. We believe that children are not even eligible to go there, because in order for you to have a doubt in your sexual identity, you have to have it first. We simply see that children don't have sexual identity. They are developing until a certain age when they actually determine they determine how they feel about physically, about themselves, about others. Secondly, is this a rational choice? Whoever is involved in this program, are they at that point making a rational choice? Rational choice, ladies and gentlemen, consists of three things. Firstly, you have to have a cognitive ability to see the foreseeable consequences of your conduct. We simply say for these kind of people, if they go to the program, they see the foreseeable consequences of the program. They might be cured or not, let's say. Secondly, the second part of the rational decision part is that you are informed. We simply say that they will be informed because you are already all informed what those programs are actually offering to the customers. Thirdly, the third part is that we have the consent of these people going to the program. Ladies and gentlemen, if we have consent, we don't mind, we don't doubt their rational decision. If they are not threatened or forced to go, which in our case of these governments they were not. No, thank you, and later. Thirdly, they say that there is a pressure upon them to go on this program. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no, as I explained, they concede to this idea to go, and usually they go because they doubt their sexuality. Fourthly, finally, they say that these societies pretend they cure stuff. And this leads me to my constructives also. Ladies and gentlemen, the church pretends that you can cure your spirit, ladies and gentlemen, if you say a couple of Hail Marys. They pretend you will cure your bad life if you do good deeds afterwards and you will get the paradise. We simply say that there are programs who promise us a lot of things in our society, but we allow them to exist, although they are mutually exclusive. Let's say, if we allow people to believe in Catholic Church, then that doesn't mean that at the same time can't be, that it has a problem of it is a problem of existence of Muslim religious buildings. No, thank you, later. Simply put, ladies and gentlemen, these things are not mutually exclusive. They believe that they can get there something. We don't believe that there is harm. So let's see the first flashpoint. That is, what kind of things we forbid in our society. We forbid either those programs who make harm to the direct participants of the program, no thank you, conductor of the program, or the conductee in the program, or thirdly, are there consequences to the society, in this case for the homosexual society. Let's see those involved. The one who is conducting the program has that belief, and there is no direct harm for him. Second, the participant of the program. Is there a harm for them? Ladies and gentlemen, we simply say it's not, because they believe that they can get something from it. And even if they come out, and then there are two ways that they can come out after that program. Either believing they're cured, which is also not harming them, or secondly, seeing that actually that program didn't do anything for them, therefore lose that program, directly losing the credibility. And that's what Milan tried to say. By banning this stuff, you're saying that that might maybe work, and you give it even more support.
Yes. In our case, we have clearly established 3 humps, namely unhappy marriages, higher suicidal rates, and postponing.
Ladies and gentlemen, this comes from every other thing in our society. You can have a bad marriage with although you're heterosexual, ladies and gentlemen. That would be only true if you would take this assumption that only homosexual people are killing themselves. This is simply shameful. This is simply not true, ladies and gentlemen. Same implications that they're referring that they're existing in this case exist in all other cases. There are many people who are believing that the church will help them get there disappointed and then commit suicide. That happens too. Simply they didn't connect their identified problem with the identified solution. And finally, what are the consequences for the homosexual community? No, thank you. Simply, ladies and gentlemen, they see these programs as ridiculous. As do atheists see churches, ladies and gentlemen. They simply don't believe that there is anything for them. It doesn't offend them simply as the people who are, let's say, believing in Allah or are not offended that there is maybe another part of the society that believes in church, in normal societies in which we, ladies and gentlemen, we live. Now, simply, there is no effect on them in that manner. There is no harm to them. The harm for them be if only you would forbid homosexuality programs to run still. The programs that are fighting for the rights of the homosexuality. But we're not banning those, either. What have we brought you from the side of the opposition? Ladies and gentlemen, we simply explained that in matters we ban things that harm people. I explained to you that there is no harm for the people who are conducting this program, for those who are participating in this program, and definitely not for the society. I explained to you that rational choice is based on whether you have the cognitive ability to see the foreseeable consequences of your conduct. We simply say that homosexuals who go under this program know those stuff, see the foreseeable consequences of it, and they are informed about their choice. And thirdly and finally, they conceded to this. Freedom of belief is here in question. Let them believe whatever they want. Thank you.